And little children were running down the street saying, "You going to jail today?" I went last week. You going to jail today? I love to tell that story because they got involved in what they saw going on in their city.
Well, I think it's very timely in light of the fact that it is the 50th anniversary of the letter, and also I have a dream speech. And because of all the things that are going on in our world today, that I really believe that the Christian church should be front and center of. This reflection allows the church to once again really think about the role and responsibility that we, I will say we because I'm part of the church, should have in society, because this letter really addresses that. I think at the heartbeat of the letter is his challenge to churches to reclaim that sacrificial zeal that the first Christian church had, so that it won't be dismissed, as he called it, as a social club, having a weak and ineffectual voice. And so I'm so happy that this response took place today. But more importantly, I look forward to the action that will come as a result of it, because that's what's most important, that we begin to see the changes in communities and people's hearts begin to be transformed, and that the church eventually, I don't know if ever the church will become fully integrated, because we have a lot of cultural preferences, but at least we will see more culturally integrated congregations across denominations. So that's my hope. I do think we have to connect this generation of young people to the history. We haven't done a great job of that. Certainly not in a manner and in a way that would be appealing to them. We have to, the way in which we transfer the information is critical in today's society. We got a soundbite generation, so we have to make use of technology as we do it. But obviously, when you don't know your history, as the statement goes, you're bound to repeat it. If you also don't know your history, you cannot appreciate why you are where you are today and what brought you to this place. And so it's important that we engage young people and create forums and platforms. And one of the things I'm always pressing for is, how do we create platforms where young people are just as much a part of the discussion and dialogue as the adults are? And oftentimes they are not.
My last question, what is the one thing that you really want to see change?
I would like to see the church be more unified and vocal. I think we're too silent when we should speak up, and sometimes I think we speak up when perhaps we should be silent, and that we don't let doctrine and ego get in our way, and that we learn to really truly collaborate with one another. There are too many communities suffering, and there are an overwhelming amount of churches. So to me, there's an irony in that. Why do we have so much suffering when those of us who are supposed to represent the healing balm and the presence of God, the presence of Christ in society, are saturated in communities?
Actually, thought of one more thing. This is such a great question, I think. What do you think your father would think about this letter that was signed today?
I think he would have mixed feelings. I think on the one hand, he would certainly welcome it with humility and a sense of joy and appreciation. But if anything, my father really wanted to ensure that our talk matched, our walk matched our talk.
I was talking to some youngsters one day. The reason I cried, because I saw my daddy. My father could have been one of those men on that chain gang. Their ankles were chained together. That's what they used to do to black prisoners. And I realized the reason I was crying, and the youngsters and all, they couldn't relate to that, but it was a part of my life experience. And I just wonder, and as much of this history that you talk about so beautifully, and this day has been about, what if they haven't experienced it? I'm having to grapple with, what do we do if it's just in my soul that and even there's a verse, I didn't know his name, so they didn't care. He's just a black man, you know, who did something that they decided he should be punished for. What happens if the youngsters don't know and can't feel that history?
But I think that's why the historical sites that have been preserved are so critical
Mm-hmm.
to the teaching and the learning.
Mm-hmm.
When we brought a group of young people here last summer from our summer camp at the King Center, we sat on the steps of the 16th Street Baptist Church, and a couple of the young ladies said, "Thank you for this day," because we took them to Montgomery, and they were able to engage some of the people that lived through that movement.
Wow, yeah.
And we brought them here to Birmingham, to the
Fantastic.
museum, Kelly Ingram Park,
Fantastic.
and they sat on the steps, and she said, "Thank you for this day, because I've gotten more history in this one day than I've gotten sitting in my history class
Oh,
for a year."
fantastic.
And so it's the authentic places combined with the people that remain that are important, I think, to sharing that history. And it does have to come from, it does have to begin when they're very young. Because I didn't live through what you all lived through.
Yeah.
But my mother made it come alive in the home.
Yeah.
So I was able to embrace it.
Yeah.
Doris Crenshaw, Doris Dozier, and I was an 11-year-old student when the Montgomery Bus Boycott started, and vice president of the youth council of the Doris A, and I stayed with the movement since 1955. And today I run an institute called the Southern Youth Leadership Development Institute.